class. Welcome to the next segment in the week 7 material. And in this segment, we're going to talk about something called a try except block or a try except finally block, and talk about when you would actually use something like this and what exactly it does. Now, before we actually get into what exactly is going on here, we first have to define some terminologies in order to keep things straight so that you don't get confused about what exactly is going on here. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. Now, when you're working with errors in computer programming, which you will inevitably be working with at some point, there's just no avoiding that. There are three main classifications of error that you can encounter whenever you're writing any sort of computer program. The first of which is a compile error. And this is some sort of error that just prevents the program from running at all. The program never gets going off the ground because there's some sort of formatting issue or something is out of place. And there are some examples of that shown up on the screen here. So here's a print statement that's missing a quotation mark. That would cause a compile error. Dropping a parentheses would also produce some sort of compile error. And another thing that would produce a compile error is some sort of mathematical expression that is out of place or has some sort of fault. In this case, we're saying 10 plus, and we have nothing else to add to the 10 there. So those are some examples of some compile errors. And again, a compile error is just something that prevents the program from even running in the first place. It doesn't even get off the ground. A runtime error. The program compiles, meaning it is able to start running, but in the process of the program's operation, it encounters some issue that causes it to stop running or to crash or to throw some sort of error message. And some examples of that are shown on the screen here. So one of which is dividing by 0, something that's fairly common to encounter. From a strictly formatting standpoint, there's nothing wrong with dividing one number by the other, but if you're going to actually perform that operation and your value in the denominator ends up being 0, you divide by 0, which you can't do, so your program will crash and say 0 division error and tell you that it cannot divide something by 0. Now, a couple other things that we can encounter. One that's even more common is accessing an item in a list that doesn't exist. So this is a pretty absurd example here. So access the 1.5 item of my list. That just isn't going to work. Usually this is going to be more something along the lines of plugging a number here that's too big. Say your list has 10 items long and you try to access item number 50. That isn't going to work so well either. And another one is one where you try to cast something, you try to convert something from one data type to the other, and that particular operation is not allowed. So in this case, I'm trying to use the int on a string that clearly has a floating point number inside the string here. So instead of using int, I would have to use float in order to avoid a runtime error from occurring. And the third and final error is a logic error. So in the case of a logic error, your program compiles, meaning it's able to start running, and your program runs to completion, meaning it doesn't crash or encounter any problems along the way, but the result that you get back from the program's operation is not something that you want, or the program does something that you did not want it to do. So a few examples of some logic errors would be a computer program that tells you 2 plus 2 equals 9,000. That is definitely a large and very glaring logic error. So if your computer tells you that, then something probably went wrong there, unless you wanted the computer to actually say that in the first place to make it look silly. But in a more practical standpoint, if your computer is telling you 2 plus 2 is equal to 9,000, something is wrong somewhere. And another example of a logic error, the temperature is negative 194 kelvins. If you're familiar with the Kelvin scale, you'll know that is not physically possible because absolute 0 is 0 kelvins, so it's not really physically possible to have a temperature below 0 kelvins, hence a temperature of negative 194 kelvins is no bueno. And then the third example that I have here is saying there were negative 24 EF2 tornadoes last year. That just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. How can you have a negative quantity of something? That just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Did Mother Nature take out a debt of EF2 tornadoes that it couldn't pay back? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So this would be another example of a logic error. Just something something probably is wrong with your program that you're not getting an actual error message for. Now, between these three errors, a try except block is designed to handle a runtime error. That is, the program is able to start running, but at some point along the program's operation, it encounters an issue, and that issue is termed a runtime error. And that's what the try except blocks are designed to handle. So going back to the program that we first introduced, so we have some variables here. And here we have an example of a try except finally block, as demonstrated on the screen here. Now, the way this is actually going to, well, first a few formatting issues, a few formatting things to illustrate. So the word try, colon, again, that's crucial colon there, except, also a colon, and then finally also a colon that appears after that. And just like any other Python command that has a colon after that, that means there's going to be some indented statements that appear directly below that. And in the case of a try block, which is what we have here on lines 7 and 8, anything that's indented below the word try those statements are considered to be part of the try block or within the try block. And then the indentation that appears directly below the except here on line 9, the portion that I have highlighted right now, that is in fact going to be a statement that is contained within the except block, or that command is in the except block. And then same rule of thumb for the finally block. Same rule of thumb for the finally block. So again, this indentation tells the computer that this particular Python, these particular Python statements, if there's more than one, are considered to be part of the finally block. So now let's actually talk about what exactly is going on here. So we have some stuff going on in the try block here. And if you look at the values of our variables right now, you can already sort of tell something is going to go wrong here. So the way that the computer is going to start doing this is it's going to start running the commands in the try block much like it would just any other Python command. There's really nothing overly special going on here. It's just that if a runtime error arises from a command within the try block, the computer will immediately cease running whatever's in the try block and jump immediately down and run whatever's in the except block. And in this case, we can see our variable y is 10 and our variable x is 0. And here we're attempting to divide by 0, but it's to no avail. So this is going to cause a runtime error. So the moment the computer hits this command in the try block, it's going to encounter a runtime error, which then causes it to jump down to the except block, and it will run whatever's in the except block. And then this thing going on in the finally block, this is actually kind of useless and not something that's just more for structuring purposes than anything else, because it turns out this print statement on line 14 will do the exact same thing. It's just whatever is in the finally block, that is something that the computer will run regardless of what happens in the try except block. So if we encounter a runtime error in the try block, we'll jump down and run whatever's in the except block. If we don't encounter a runtime error in the try block, then whatever is in the except block is ignored. But whether we encounter a runtime error or not in the try block, the finally block will be something the computer acts on whether or not we get an error. And this unindented print statement on line 14 will do the exact same thing. This is really not something you have to worry about. And it's just, sometimes you will find computer code out there that uses a finally block, and I only include it here just to explain what exactly is going on. This print statement on line 12, even though it's indented, will essentially do the exact same thing as this print statement on line 14, which is completely unindented, meaning it's not part of any try except finally portion in our code here. But if we want to go ahead and get some demonstration as to what exactly is going on here, so again, we're going to create an artificial runtime error, and that's going to cause the computer to jump down to run whatever's in the except block. And you can see we get, "What is this math you're trying to do?" in all caps and probably an angry tone of voice. And then you can see it runs what's in the finally block. This will be displayed no matter what. The finally keyword is almost useless. And then it runs this print statement on line 14, which says this will also be displayed no matter what. And if I want to, I can also go ahead and take this demonstration a little bit further, not by deleting that, but actually by rearranging the order here. So here I'll print the value of z first, then attempt to perform this division. And you'll see now it actually runs that print statement before it encounters the runtime error. So this kind of demonstrates a point that I made earlier. The instant the runtime error occurs, it will stop running whatever's in the try block. Because what I had before gave me this output where it did not print out the value of z, but what I just put here, or what I just demonstrated, where I'm printing out z first, which corresponds to this number here, then I go and perform the division that was just not meant to be because the denominator is 0. So the instant that a runtime error occurs in the try block, it will immediately skip down to what's in the except block. But now let's consider the case or the potential scenario where an error doesn't occur. So here I'll change the denominator of my fraction here to be something else. So now this is a legal mathematical operation here. 10 divided by 10 is just simply 1. So we don't expect a runtime error to occur inside the try block, and we just run down. So because there's no error here in the try block, then the except block is completely ignored. So you can see everything in here ran without issue, still runs what's inside the finally block, what's on line 12, and it still runs the unindented print statement that appears after all of the try except finally stuff. Now, I'll also go ahead and demonstrate what happens without the try block. Now, before I do that, I should go ahead and mention, if there is a runtime error that will occur, you want the Python command that will be producing that runtime error to be part of the try block. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate right here, because now I have the same issue that I had before, but now my runtime error is going to be occurring outside of the try block. This is not indented, so this is not part of the try block. And this will be what happens when a runtime error occurs outside the try block. You can see the entire program just comes crashing down, and it's not able to proceed to anything after that. And that's the whole idea behind the try except block. It's a way that you can make sure your program keeps running even if some sort of issue arises while the program is in operation. So that's where you would actually use a try except block. It's a way that you can ensure the program doesn't come crashing down. The program is able to keep running even if an error occurs. But I say that with an asterisk because if there is a problem that occurs, you want to make sure that problem occurs inside the try block, because as we just demonstrated, if the issue occurs outside of a try block, then this just happens. The computer program just crashes and ceases to continue running, whereas here, where we have our issue occurring inside the try block, the program is able to keep running even though we did an illegal division here that the computer would normally not be able to handle. So as far as practical use goes, there are two main situations where this will be most useful. One is handling user interaction. So let's say your user is trying to type in a number, and if they try and type in something that's not a number, then you could run into a runtime error that would normally cause the program to crash. And we can actually go ahead and demonstrate that. So here I would say enter a number. And let's say in doing that, the user types in the number 9 and they accidentally hit the backslash before they hit enter, and that would produce a runtime error, and you can see it actually skip down to the except block saying, what is this math you're trying to do? So user interaction is a great situation to use the try except block in. Another really big one that's useful to use the try except block is any sort of network connection. So let's say that you're trying to read information from a remote server, some sort of web server or some sort of website, and your internet connection falters, which is not that uncommon to see. So it would be a good idea to have a try except block so that your program can continue running even if that runtime error related to a network connection faltering, even if that runtime error occurs, having the try except block properly set up will enable your program to keep running instead of crashing with an error message. And sort of a side note, I'll go ahead and mention, this is kind of something that's specific to Python. In other programming languages, this is called a try-catch block. But that's just sort of a formatting difference, but the actual functionality is this exact same. Here we're using Python, so this is a try except block instead of a try catch block, which is more commonly encountered in other programming languages. But that's going to do it for the segment on the try except finally block. And in the next segment, we're going to explore another tidbit unrelated to this segment, which is the idea of a multi-dimensional Python list. So with that, I will see you all in the next segment.